Good morning, guys. So I wanted to explain the antibiotic sheet that will be on your third exam. It will be the first question worth 0 points. All right, so it will be the same format as the codon sheet. So when you're reading this, you have the antibiotic, the potency, which is basically how much antibiotic is on the disc. So all this is always on a disc. And you will have, sometimes you'll have G represented depending on the antibiotic, and then you'll have a 10 on it, so the disc will look like that. Other ones have, so this would be vancomycin at 20 micrograms. So when you're reading this, it's all determined on how susceptible the bacteria is to that antibiotic. So the way that it's rated is in terms of sensitive, intermediate, and resistant. So when you have a plate and you have a disc on the plate and it creates a zone of inhibition, basically meaning that the antibiotic worked, the greater the zone of inhibition, meaning this, the better it works. If you have one where it's this, you would use this antibiotic, whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is, because the zone is bigger. If you use this one, it may not work as well. And if you use one that's somewhat in between this zone and that zone, it may or may not work depending on what type of organism it is. All right, so when you're looking at sensitive, intermediate, resistant, you're looking at the actual zone itself. So when you're measuring in millimeters, and you're also measuring from the edge of the zone to the other edge of the zone. So that will give you the zone of inhibition, this whole part right here. All right, so when you're looking at the numbers, it may be easier to look at it this way. Oops. So this would be resistant, intermediate, sensitive. So this is a 12. So when you're looking at this, let's say we have a plate and we have gentamicin on it, and the zone is this big. This is not relative to size, all right? We have a zone of inhibition of 16, all right? So this zone is measured at 16 millimeters. And if you're looking at the chart, it's not going to be resistant or intermediate. It is above 15, so that means it will be sensitive, all right? We also have chloramphenicol. So the potency of this one is higher, all right? It's all dependent on the antibiotic. It's not, if the antibiotic cannot work on a specific microorganism in terms of bacteria, because antibiotics are used for bacteria. Chloramphenicol, the potency is 30 micrograms. So this one has a sensitivity of anything greater than 18. 13 to 17 and 11 and less. All right. So if I give you that chloramphenicol has a zone of inhibition of 15, it would be intermediate. Augmentin, so the potency is 30 micrograms, so that is a mu. It represents micro. So when you're looking at this one in particular, if I give you a zone of inhibition of 10, so 13 and less is resistant, intermediate is 14 to 17, and 18 and above. I give you a number of 10 millimeters. it is going to be resistant. All right. So I'm going to show you the whole chart. This will be provided. I'm not sure if I said it already. It is like my 5th time making this video for you guys. So when you're looking at this, some of them do have a greater zone of inhibition in terms of sensitivity. It just depends on the antibiotic. It's not if you use the wrong antibiotic on the wrong bacteria, it's pointless. All right. So some of them have high, like I've never used that one before. Cloflaxin, and where was the other 21? Clarismide. So these actually are higher in terms of their sensitivity when the zone of inhibition is greater than 20. Some of them over here, some of them anything lower or at or lower than 11 will be considered resistant. And actually there's one here that's lower than anything 10 and lower is resistant. So when you're looking at this, I can ask you questions in terms of I get the zone of inhibition of 16, but I give you 3 answers. You would basically look to see where 16 is for a specific antibiotic. So this one, if I gave you 16, it would be sensitive. If I gave you 16 for this one, it would be sensitive. If I gave you 16 for amoxicillin, it would be resistant. If I gave it to you for chloramphenicol, it would be intermediate. So that would be more along the lines of a multiple choice. Because there are so many antibiotics on this list, I'm not going to make you keep going back and forth and writing every single one that can possibly be it. I would basically narrow it down so that you wouldn't have to keep going back and forth. You would just need this as a reference to make sure that the number that I provide you is within the range for the said antibiotic.